we had a collab planned for today, and we are missing a couple people, so hopefully they will, whatever crisis and drama that they're dealing with, hopefully they'll find their way here, and if not, that's fine. But we're going to have a collab, and hold on, let me fix my morning hair. fix that a little bit. Okay, so we're going to kind of maybe talk about consciousness a little bit. So I've been reading this book. I'm forcing myself to go back and read because reading is like one of my favorite things to do, but the last 5 years has just been like one crisis activity after another. It's called stomping out the fire dance every minute of the day. So I really love books with yoga stuff, and it's not just traditionally what Americans would see as yoga. It's a physical activity. It's more of a mental and emotional activity. But I love books that have to do with like Buddha, Hinduism, Brahmaism, a lot of these different kinds of understandings and thoughts. And so I have a collection of them that I actually need to read. But this one I found on the $1.99 bookcase at the Goodwill. It's called Yoga and the Quest for True Self by Stephen Cope. And he's like a shrinky that, kind of has a life crisis and then ends up at a ashram here in the United States, kind of real traditional yoga ashram. And then he's going to stay for 4 months. And then he talks about his life in the past while he's undergoing transformation of yoga. So he has like really beautiful excerpts that he puts in the book from different types of yogis. And this one I wanted to read because for me right now, this is kind of like the heart of the matter. I've spent a lot of my time running towards. Oh, hold on a second. Let me see what we got here. Nope, we're good. And never really being in the present moment. People like Ram Dass, I've read a lot of these books, be in the present moment. But, it's not that easy to focus with the present moment because everyone you're dealing with around you is in primitive state, a reactive state of freeze, fight, or what's the other one? Run, fight, or freeze. Your primitive reptilian type brain states of stress. So there's no room for the present moment, when we're dealing with common reactive brain fear and how our body and our brain reacts to fearful environments. And stress can cause long-term, the state was put into us biologically to protect us from, the saber-toothed tiger jumping out of the bushes, chasing us down, and us making a decision. Obviously, natural selection would have been like, if you would have froze, you would have been eaten, so you would have been out of the picture. But you had two other ones, which are fight off the saber-toothed tiger. So your limbs and everything, and your, even with running, your limbs get an active dose of blood flow so that you can take off and do whatever you need to do. Which means that the brain and the torso, the blood flow is not actually feeding those systems. So you can't think during, you can't feel, and you cannot think during crisis or high stress volume. And we live in like a constant state of, high stress all the time, which means that the blood flow is just going to the outer limbs so that we can, manage what we think is the saber-toothed tiger chasing us around 24/7. And so it's really difficult to actually kind of, come into balance, kind of find your place in the middle, like in the present moment. And one of the things that's really worked for me, Par and I talk about this stuff all the time because we're always talking about language. And so for me, language matters. And one of the things that I've been really actively doing is really forcing myself not to react as much as possible to what's going on in the outside world. And if I do react to it, I react to it in a way where I'm honest. For example, say I have a situation with another person, it's making me upset, it's making me really feel uncomfortable, and I'll actually deal with that person in a direct statement. And maybe I'll say, you know what, you should really get out of my face right now because, you know, I really want to rip your hair out of your head and slam your face against the wall. It helps me to say that because that's how I feel.
Ouch.
Right? Instead of trying to find a higher vibration, just the honesty keeps me from going into reactive stress mode. Then maybe I can come back and I can deal with it, or I can choose not to deal with it. But there's this honesty component. And so through a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now, I'm working on the languaging of emptiness. And I realize, like most of my life, like other people, you know, have had this training where empty isn't good. Right? You don't want an empty gas tank. You don't want an empty refrigerator. You don't want an empty closet, right? You don't want, you know, empty is not a good thing, empty bank account. So we're trained to make sure, and in American culture, it's really bad. We have serious hoarders. We have people that will just hoard trash, dig in dumpsters just to bring trash into their house or their living spaces. Or, you know, the other side of it, of not being empty, is drinking, overeating, you know, states of, you know, totally checked out where people, you know, don't really have any consciousness available. Because, you know, when we're in those high stress states and whatever we're doing to avoid, or we think that we're avoiding the high stress states, but we're not dealing with it at all. And we're medicating whatever way that's going to be, whether it's shopping or getting your nails done all the time, or, you know, getting unlimited massages, or managing your diet, overly restricting your diet, working out too much, hoarding stuff, hoarding trash, spending all your money, you know, being in these states, that's actually checking out. So you're still in the past and you're still in the future. And you're still avoiding dealing with what's going on. In the meantime, you know, trying to make sure and manage everything so that it's never empty, right? So in Eastern philosophies, a lot of this stuff is about, you know, emptying. And I remember I was telling this story to my friend the other day, because people just don't really meditate right. And it's because they don't really, you have all of these amazing, like, Buddhists and Rinpoches and Lamas and all these people who have come to America and opened ashrams, but in their culture, they're already starting at a spiritual point of understanding. In American culture, we don't even have that. And so they don't backtrack in order so that we can understand the basic understandings of Eastern philosophy. And what happened was, I think it was around 27, 28, and I got invited through a friend of mine to go to a Sangha. I think it's called a Sangha. But it was a traditional meditation, like a Buddhist type meditation, but this one is a silent, non-moving one. So you have Tibetan Buddhism where, you know, you get to imagine mandalas and create these realities in your space, blah, 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 blah. And then you have like Zen type Buddhist meditation. And then you have this more Asian flair, tight knit meditation. So you can't move. There's only like 3 body positions that you can hold for a whole like 45 minutes to an hour. And you come to as a group, and you can't make a sound. And it's really, really tough because, you know, they give you these kind of rules of, you know, what you need to do to be there, but it didn't help me with the problems I had. So for example, I call it the fidget. I couldn't seem to get away from the fidget because I was so used to moving around or moving my feet around or tapping or whatever else that I was doing, because that's where my mind was, all over the place. So my body hadn't been harnessed in, the behavior of my body. So my mind was being exhibited outward from the chaos in my mind by the chaos in the movement of my body, not being able to sit still, constantly, pulling on stuff, it took me a long time to deal with the fidget. And so I would go to this meditation like once a week and literally have to fight for 45 minutes just to keep myself from allowing my body to fidget. So once I got that down, which included keeping my mind calm, or my face, you know what I mean, keeping the wrinkles out of my face so that the thoughts that were going weren't affecting my body, right? Or any expression on my body. My body looked pretty calm. Then the second stage was actually the physical pain. So once I got the fidgeting down, I realized like the fidgeting was covering a lot of the physical pain that I had in my body that I wasn't actually paying attention to. So for like the next 6 months, I'd have to work on, sitting in lotus. There's only 3 postures that I could do. And then attempting to connect with my body and those parts of my body. But the issue is that because Eastern doesn't have this backtracking techniques to help you to overcome that stuff, I think a lot of people in Western society give up on a lot of these Eastern teachings because we're not starting at the same place of the Eastern teachings. So it took me about 6 months to be able to sit in one spot without fidgeting and with dealing with the physical pain in my body until I finally got to a place where 45 minutes, like I was completely calm. And then I could start working on the stuff that was going through my mind. So it's only been, maybe in the last 5 years that I actually now I'm at, can really start to work with emptying. And for me, that word emptying, being an empty vessel, feeling, being in the present moment and feeling completely empty, where I don't feel anything. But not because I'm checked out or I'm medicated, but because I'm really honestly open and empty and fully like in the present moment. And then that way, I can stop dealing with a lot of the running. And that's all I see right now is I see people running around in their past, trying to keep, their future from being the same as their past, and then running to, this one really cracks me up because I caught myself doing it about 5 years ago where I realized like I was trying to outsmart and come up with solutions for something that may happen to me 6 months down the road. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was like, that is the craziest. If there is a definition for mental illness, that is the definition. You're already trying to problem solve something 6 months down the road, and you don't even know if or what is going to happen.
Or you will be exhausted by getting things to the position you will avoid. So you could actually create that situation, like it could steer you towards this will happen actually, and you will need to solve it. So I can understand what you try to picture.
Right. So anyway, so there was this piece, and I did put it on my blog, but I wanted to read it because It was a commentary by a guru on the Yoga Sutras, which not everything in yoga is physical movement. You know, there are a lot of other components, but this is what he says. Yoga means that now there is no hope. Now there is no future. Now there are no desires. One is ready to know what is. One is not interested in what can be, what should be, what ought to be. One is not interested. One is interested only in that which is, because only the real can free you. Only the reality can become liberation. Total despair is needed. That despair is called dukkha by Buddha. And if you are really in misery, don't hope, because your hope will only prolong the misery. Your hope is a drug. It can help you to reach death only and nowhere else. All your hopes can lead you to death. Become totally hopeless, no future, no hope, difficult. Needs courage to face the real. But such a moment comes in everyone sometime or another. A moment comes to every human being when he feels totally hopelessness. Absolute meaningless happens to him. When he becomes aware that whatsoever he is doing is useless, wheresoever he is going nowhere, and all his life is meaningless. Suddenly hope drops, future drops, and for the time you are in tune with the present. For the first time you are face to face with reality. When you are not moving into the future, not moving towards the past, then you start moving within yourself, because your being is here and now. You are present here and now, and you can enter this reality. So you think about that, like, you know, unless you're in the present moment, you can't deal with your reality. You can't find solutions to your issues. And, you know, I've been really working with this emptiness, you know, like working on what that would feel like. And the last couple of days I've had this really, like even today I had to go drive some errands, and I just really had this sense of like really kind of being in the present moment and just really feeling solid and just really feeling like expanded state of consciousness, like all together. And I really was like, you know what? Today I really feel empty. And it feels so good. It's like the best feeling ever, because I can just be in the present moment and not worry about everything else, or the past, the future, or if I'm going to eat lunch, or I'm going to have this, or I'm going to stop at this stop sign, or whatever else. I could just be like breathing and just being there, you know, and really noticing like the sunlight and what are the trees doing and the colors, and while I'm fully conscious, you know, like driving on the road. So, you know, for me, like the word emptiness instead of being open or all these other things really fits, because in the culture I live in, like I was saying before, I've just spent so much time trying to keep everything not empty. And, you know, when you hit that phase of emptiness, like I think mentally and emotionally, where there's nothing there, and you don't really matter, you know, it doesn't really matter anymore, like what's going to happen or how this is going to go down or whatever is going to be, and you can really just feel it. It's like this really amazing state of light and warmth and comfort and just dissolving, you know, just dissolving the construct of the realities that, you know, you've created around you and boxed you in. So you have this, you know, kind of expansion that kind of goes on. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, just because it was such a, you know, like a perfect thing. And Ryan and I ended up talking a lot about, you know, how just every day, because Ryan lives where I live, and we talk a lot about how hopium is the destroyer. Because every time you get hope that everything's going to be okay, well, we live in a polarity and a duality. Something has to come in and destroy that hope. And like he was saying in that, thing, like when you get to the place where there is no hope, that's where you want to be. You want to get past that, where, it's not like I'd like to use the term like I don't care, but I've been saying that a lot lately. Like stuff will rise in my mind, or, stuff rises, and I just think to myself, like I just really don't care. Because what I really want to be focused in on is just, the emptiness. And, I think I was scared for most of my life to be empty, because in American culture, if I really sought out emptiness, then on some level that meant death. It meant like you stopped trying and you let everything fall apart and like you destroyed your own life. And so that's kind of like, where I've kind of hit recently is just, coming into that emptiness, and even if, stress is hitting me, now that I'm kind of finding that feeling, it's easier for me to get there. But until I actually felt and acknowledged what emptiness felt like, there was just no way I could get there. I would go everywhere but that thing to connect to. So, and this is kind of an interesting thought too, and then I'll let you talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I think it was like 2007, and I was a personal chef for some people in Austin, Texas. I was going to school for a manual technique to reboot the brain. So I would go up to Dallas to the college up there 1 week on and do all the, so the teachers could oversee like the hand techniques to the body and stuff like that. And then I would go back to Austin, Texas, and then where I was living, I was getting room and board for making dinner 3 weeks out of the month when I was in Austin. And then I would do all my book reading and I do all my papers and my homework. But at the end of the program, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I knew I didn't want to really live in Texas because the weather there was just really a difficult place for me weather-wise. So I was reading about, maybe making a dream board to like try to figure out where I might want to head. So I went down to the store and I got all kinds of magazines with pictures in them of, different things like a farm, chickens, maybe kayaking, rock climbing, things that I really wanted to do after I kind of finished this program, hiking, just a lot of things, pictures that I would find. And as I was, cutting things out and I was assembling this dream board, and then I was going to tape these images on, there was one picture in particular that really struck me, but at the time I didn't really even realize like why it struck me. But it was when, I think it was like 2007, when the women's Olympic soccer team won the gold medal. And one of the girls on the team, literally rips her shirt off. She has like a sports bra and everything underneath. She's not naked. But she literally is on her knees. She rips her shirt off, and just the look on her face. And, in 2007, I didn't really have any inclination of what that was reflecting to me. But I put that picture in the area of my dream board. because that's how I wanted to feel every day about my life. Whatever that look was, that's how I wanted to feel about my life every day. I wanted to just be like, yeah, just have this like just incredible feeling about my life. So anyway, I finished the dream board. I eventually move. I go back to Reno. I put, my stuff in storage. Eventually I go down to San Diego, then to Taos, New Mexico, and I'm kind of like, going all over for about, I don't know, 3 years, I think. And then I come back to Reno and I have to get into storage, and I'm looking through this box and I see the dream board and I open it up. And I hadn't really conjured anything in my life that was reflective of this dream board. So I was thinking, wow, this thing was like a total waste of time. It didn't really help me. And then I looked at that picture of the soccer player, just going, yeah, of how I want to feel about my life every day. And it hit me. It hit me that the expression that she was exhibiting was joy. And then for like a month, I really thought about the whole thing. And I thought that, I think that's pretty strange that I wouldn't have known what that feeling was, being able to take that image and put it to a word. And I realized because in my life, I had never seen anybody in my life exhibit joy. My parents never ever had joy, full expressions. So, and then I started to realize that, like, if you're dealing with a like attract like world, and you're trying to conjure something in your life or manifest your reality, and you don't know what it is that you want, you're never going to be able to get it. So me not ever having joy in my life, not being able to put an image with the feeling and the word. So you got the word, the image, and the feeling. How was I ever going to have joy? So like that emptiness, I could be searching for it all over the place and never hit it until the moment I feel it and I recognize that I felt it. Then I have a point that I can keep going back to, like that joy. I can keep going around because I want joy, but I've never felt it and I've never seen it on anybody's face. I haven't seen an expression. So how could I possibly manifest joy in my life, and how could I ever manifest having joy and being in joy if I don't even know what it looks like? So the same thing with emptiness. So today I was like, really excited because I had this moment where I just felt empty. And, it was short-lived, but it was like I got there. You know what I mean? I'm getting there. There's a point that I can keep going back to. And as long as I can keep pulling that in, eventually I'll be able to hold it. So anyway, that's kind of like my blurb. So what do you have? What do you have?
Well,
what are your thoughts?
You're leading a topic, so I will try to connect into it. And the empty thing is the leading threads that you decorate around. So I enjoy, as you say, or as we have done, delve into language or words. And I love the way you say word, because it sounds very much like the English spelling of our ancient, one of the three birth maidens, Urd in my ancestors' language, and Vird, or word in the Old English. And mind you, Old English and Norse Germanic languages were very tight and close together. They would understand each other like dialects. They would not need too much time to come to grips to talk to each other, even they were several countries away from each other. So empty, I got a lot of help in life from a man with a very fluid brain or fluid mind. And you talk about the emptiness as reaching joy or fulfillment. So there's something seemingly as two opposites, but I try to expand. My path in life is the endeavor of maybe too many times, I don't know, but I pull myself towards taking very curvy paths. And I have discovered the reason is I enjoy to learn or discover. And in the words of Empty, this man, he spent his last years from he had a work related accident, so he got a sick pension for the rest of his life. So he felt like he could spend the time enjoying some of his hobbies, and he integrated lots of his experiences and other fields that suited him. So he wished to understand the region around him, the local history. And very fast he saw how it connected out very broad in a broad region, his own region or his own local history, and have very natural ties and connections to not only Europe but actually all the world. And he took some of the local historical gems of the petroglyphs, and as petro or petrus is the word for petrify or stone in our ordinary language, and glyph is sign or well, not scribble, but it's a symbol with meaning. You try to connect something. And after maybe 2, 3, 4 years, not only from books and going to libraries, but actually going to the actual place with the petroglyphs in the region he was in West Sweden, formerly the Danish, Norwegian parts. Sweden came some 500 years ago and robbed Denmark of their most wealthy part, so that's part of Sweden now. But the region had its local petroglyphs, and they are quite nice. And he went there many times, and finally he spent almost like, if you will go into yourself, maybe that's the emptiness you do, because I would feel if I enjoy flow, I will feel alive. And that will be the only really great way to feel flow is to be present. So he spent this time and he got connected. He tried to come to their world and understand and see it, or understand it. I love more and more to say understand, or I honor, I see, or offer wisdom, instead of being under some stand or stance or foot. So finally, he got some support from actually breaking sorts of hieroglyphic or message style. What do they do with these things? And I could shorten it down to it's actually like a law book or an engraving of the most important law. What you will collect as the wisdom to agree to be together around. And the one thing led to another. So this trace of the up to 2,000 to 5,000 years old petroglyphs, so-called rock carvings, he could see the language or the mind, and he could clearly understand, he could clearly feel and connect to their wisdom. They were very wise, even more so than we are today. So he used the time to in himself connect and venerate and honor them. That's now it feels quite easy to say. He would actually honor them, and the partaking of their world in him visiting what they actively in the flow, in the now, have put in the stone. If you put something in stone, the action, the message is, this is forever. One of his very interesting and clear first understanding was some seemingly just artistic or the engravings in the stone. He could see, like, really, if someone holds up fingers, this is not what he saw, but this would actually maybe be like, because a number or a digit in this is digit in Latin, so digitalis is actually finger. So the digit is to, well, so if someone, a symbolic figure holding up numbers, and I actually today checked some of the language connection traces over to history, and the linguist will say number actually comes from the Proto-Indo-European word to divide or to share things with each other, and actually that's what number is for. In our language we will have division. Well, division or divide up is actually the action of caring and sharing and doing things. That's one reason to have. So this would actually be like, if we would, this is as natural as we have a symbol, a logo script for a number, 5 or whatever. So, and also, like, talking about numbers is actually talking about organization of a society. We can see with quite simple things, you can speak, or you can give the law, or you can put the structure around the team. As I told sometimes in our talkings, the Swedish word for law is team. It's synonymous. It's a word meaning two things. It means team or it means law. So actually, if you're in a team, you will cooperate about something, you agree, you will support the values that will grow. He later came into, but I will give his first kind of readable thing was he would connect from Mesopotamia, Sumer, and Egypt. That Su, S-U, is kind of a symbolic logic meaning of law. So he could see the sign for this in the other cultures. He could see it's similar here. So he could start to see like a footprint stepping on something, and then something cutting through it, cutting through a footprint, and then some other symbols. He connected it as everyone knows. This was his Su, the sign for Su, that's law. As everyone knows, if you step on the naked, it goes bad. So that's actually what you do to survive. You will follow flow, you will be in the motion of time. And the motion of time is actually, well, clearly in our languages, it's a bon, or the not the bane or something, but it's the path of the starry sky shift of the year. In most cultures, ancient wisdom will have some way to fix the orientation of points of compass. And the first time of the year, a specific constellation you have memorized on the starry night sky, you will see it again. That is kind of reading or following time. That's following time is the highest leader, because, well, we need our seeds, not only our seeds of thought and ideas and cleverness to survive, but we will live together with nature, and we'll do as nature do. And nature follows time, the highest leader. Everything is going in very much flow. If we take this word again, flow, well, you cannot try to live like springtime in the fall or like summertime in the winter. The flow or the cycle it's very easy to connect to them, and you will find the simple wisdom to follow this, and to, when you put the seeds in the field, it's a lot of work to make a field. And with ingenious, simple technology, you can manage and you can create it. In every culture around the world where we create something to survive, if we have this strain of culture inside us, we have to create and provide from the because nature is actually, well, if you as your story was, your mind goes to left or right, like past or future, but not where you are inside yourself, in you. How then the world will be empty, because you will be like blind, and you will almost walk into a tree, and the tree will hurt you. But if you will be in the flow and the nature, and you will follow, like every culture producing something they can survive from, will say this law. As everyone knows, if you step on the naked, it goes bad. You will never plant seeds and then in the spring, and then sometimes later have the animals or yourself trample around there. You will destroy. Things will go bad, because it will be, you will need to follow flow and be with flow to come to the end of the season to get the harvest. So there will be, that's almost like a natural protection formula, or well-wishing, or strict guidance that you will keep. And you will likely see all the parallel sides, like you will not trample or step on the weak in your village, in your farmer village, your farmer community, on the children. You will protect, you will know, this is everyone knows, and almost it will be a death sentence, the one so stupid to break what everyone knows. There will be severe punishment if you actually trample or step on the naked, on the weak. Because
so naked is, so how are you using the word naked? So
like
step,
naked, like a
so the
naked
step
field.
is time, right? You're using kind of like the word step as time, foot.
And action. It's funny to say the word act or action. Action is doing something. That's to go into the river of time and follow. As I think you're trying to come to the empty, and if you allow me, I will take the time to continue here. Like, this is story time telling, and I can do it around these subjects, because, and I would say naked would be, it would be the small, it would be the weak, it would be the things growing, it would be the things you take care of, it would be the things that needs protection. And if you're not wise, you will be a destroyer. We have the builders and the destroyers. The destroyers are experts. It's very simple to go in and just create chaos and pillage. They will never accept, or they will never respect or have a thought about the naked. They want the naked. They want to step on the naked, because then they catch something and run. They are the thieves. They are the anti-culture. They are against. They will not be in a community to build growth of the field, for example. So spring field, you have prepared it, and you put the seeds in the ground, and now you will have to wait some time, and you will do it the right time of the year. You will follow the time of law to know when to prepare the fields and put the seeds in there, and then well, care for it, and then when it will grow. So from all the time on now, you will know what day is the day this is naked, this is protected, and this field from now on until the harvesting is done and you plow it again. When you plow it again, it's allowed to walk across it, but it's like sacred ground. It's a protected area. So after that, he started to be able to read a lot of rock carvings, and as I did some time, and we'll try to do it, I guess we will go to Bengtamtun. Pentti Kaupala is his real Karelian Finnish name, but he took a Swedish name in Danish Swedish name in his own life, so he wanted to have his name understood in our Norse Germanic languages. So he translated Pentti Kaupala into Bengtamtun. So now I will step on to in the story, because now what he could do with interpreting, I'm getting back to the thread here. He could actually talk about, and he could see, this is like a calendar or an almanac. This painting here, so it was very complex, maybe 500 different symbols in connection. You will see like figures of men and women, or activity like in farming or whatever, but it would actually be like a clever way to make pictures following the season, and it would be divided into two, like the winter season, summer season. You will see the different things, the activity. That would be actually the time law, or the highest law. The highest law would be your year, what you will do and how you will follow and be in present to survive. You will be in present to survive if you follow time and do the things, activity to grow things and get from it. He could, and he has produced a lot of amazing insights from all the time. I think 10-15 years he spent with these rock paintings or petroglyphs. Bit by bit, he's getting into their world, and they will talk back. He will be able to start to read them, like a child go to school and be able to start to read first books for children and so on, and he will reach maybe 10-15 years later scientific literature, and he really can go into that world and discover it. So he did this with petroglyphs and rock carvings. Associated with this comes the language. This was a very long story from me to connect to language. He started to see the sounds of language, and the first versions of alphabets is called script, logo script. I don't remember right now, but it's like for sounds. The hieroglyphs is famous for the early variations where the picture told the story. And in developed hieroglyphs, it was stylized and also connected to a sound. So in the development here, in parallel Mediterranean area, and also up in Central Europe and up to Scandinavia, we start to work with the system of symbols to talk. And these scripts would be a sound and sound combination in the easiest form, either a vowel, the clear, just vibrating sound, or a consonant in connection to it. Now I will go to empty. And he saw, if you will take A, that's a vowel, it's more physical. Some of the first scripts was a cross with the anchor straight down, like physical. It's tied to the earth. E would be a cross in one of these scripts with a anchor out in the air. And the consonants connecting to it would have levels of understanding, or levels of logic or message connected to it. And many times, like in the O, the sound O, you will actually form your mouth like a circle, and we write it like a circle. And even in the scripts, he could see and detect the logic message in the vowel of O and the consonants connected to them. So if you would say BO or PO, there would be levels of logic in aspects peptide connected to it, and you could reverse it to take a OB and OP. If you will think about a simple word in English that will have meaning is me. That would be like me. So that's actually a consonant and a vowel. It's a simple word. It's as simple as like script or detail of sound. And you could reverse it, and it would more likely be the opposite logic. So me would be like, it's here, it's me, it's inside, so I can feel it really clear. It's like me, so I'm going here. So am would be, and would you agree that emanate is kind of like coming from or something? So if you start to study the different sounds and you take parallel languages and you try to map what is coincidence, because Hampton would say, it's boring with only one meaning. There will be layers of variations for just a simple sound. There can be allowed to be more meanings, variations, but they will be connected maybe, or so they will be not extremely like radically strict. It's only one logic thing with ME, but there is a logic word connected to it. So me and M would be like team to deliver a message, or to be the tool of I would say language and sounds is totally natural. It comes with nature, it comes with us. Every animal seems to have sounds and well, use this tool of sound and vibration. So but we can also use it in a, probably if you should use it together, you have to find this logic that actually is usable. It's not small, just random occasions that will create the meaning of me. And actually we say meaning. Well, there is the me in that word. Could we take meaning as a word and try to find the parts of it and maybe see structures of logic connected together? Bengt Hampton did this, and he shared it with me. In the beginning, I was very flabbergasted about, okay, this sounds like almost too fantastic. But okay, I get those, some of the points I could get quick, and the larger picture, I could get it from time, and I started to use it. And to my surprise, when I did, he made a like flow chart, or he made a column. It's called a sheet, I think, in English, with different sounds and the different logics he could find, and he put it in, like, and he used it to explain some words. And I tried it, and when I found success, and finally I went to say, like, let me take a Japanese word. I only heard it in the film, and I tried to take the sounds and see. They explained this. Hai wakaremasu means almost, I think, I forgot, but it's from a film. It's like, yes, sir, I obey you, or I'm your servant. Like a phrase of you're polite it's something you reply someone in Japan when they ask you something. Yes, of course, I will. It's something, and I could sense, even in the Japanese context, some of the logic would likely be applicable to that kind of way of using sounds. Empty would be, the first would be M, and it would be a reverse me. So it would be something go out. And well, the P, amp, the P, Hampton had some ways to talk about it. I don't have very clear things about it now, but amp, M, and then there will be the P. Probably there will be a vowel connected to the P. Maybe it's actually the E after. You hear the E, so P and EEP. P-E-E-P would be kind of a pair, a logic construction. T, or T-O, or T-U, U, T-E-U, the Y is coming like a double vowel melting together. The Y most likely is a E and a U merged together. And T is the logic opposite of et, et or te. In our language, the number 1 is et. And in Latin, te, like in or actually the this sound is the theo is the godly or the thinking structure, how you follow the correct way or the higher truth. Theology is like in Latin it's the study of religion, kind of. That's too easy. But theo is like God, or is like the higher truth, and thinking as a tool. So empty would be like to go out, and maybe, as you say, you will spend time in the being, and it will be the higher truths. And the U symbol is like to put something, to collect something, and to make action, activity, or process something. So this is a very long story. I would really like to continue with the story. In Norwegian, they will say, in Spanish, they say nada. That means no or nothing. But in my language, I can see da or do is actually then. It's time. It's the opposite of add. If you add something, but if you da, it's like action outwards. The add is like bringing something in. Here's logic. But so you could take AD and DA. It would be like connected. It would be, but the action would be imaged or mirrored in different. So add would be like we bring something, but da, da or do in Germanic and Norse language, da or do is then. It's time. It's actually action away. In Norwegian, you will live in your bo, and actually B in English, the letter B is actually the sound BE, or it's the being, or it's like, as you said, the flow or emptiness. The way you talked about emptiness was B. The emptiness is the good. It's the meaningless. I would translate it to sentence, without sentence, less or lack, free from judgment, free from sentence. You're not connected, tied. So B-O, be in the circle, that would be your nest, that would be your house, that would be your where you live, where you stay. So B-O would be where you live. It's your house. So B-O is actually a quite simple, strict meaning, understood by everyone in the Norse countries and in Germanic languages. And OB would be like opposite. To or connect in Germanic and Norse languages is an. That's something you will connect to. But na should logically, like in the Spanish nada, nothing, would be the direction would be away. So an would be to, but na would be from. And an and na is almost like en and ne, en and e. And negative is like the inverse, opposite, and en or et is actually one in our Norse languages. The funny thing is, in Norwegian, Danish, they say bo is where I am, but the na bo, na would be the logic away. An is to, na is from. So the nabo is actually your neighbor. That's where you, that's away from where you live. It's next doors. And well, now I endeavored deep into language, logic, I think it's time for you maybe to connect in here, or change the direction if you want, because I could go on for a little bit about you. You mentioned a lot of nice things. If I would just take this long nice story, you talked about the guru. He made a meditation where he said the hope is your enemy, because it's like you're trying to connect yourself away from yourself. You're trying to escape yourself. How will you escape yourself? I find the most traumatic situations, trauma actually means to hurt or to damage. The situations or the most upheaval I can feel inside me is when I don't accept a situation as natural, or the way I need to accept it. Like, I could get a dream that would feel like I'm going to be birthed again from my mother, and I will get the mental image in my brain like, oh, that's a very narrow passage, and I will imagine my life and experience now, and it cannot accept to do the natural thing of birth. But when I was there, I probably couldn't care less about it was the natural way when it was. I couldn't stop it. But if I think about it now, and I would get the feeling like I would feel like put in a corner and forced something that feels impossible. So my inner will try to resist it, and that will be like I try to hope to get away from something, because I'm imagining just stupid things in my brain that's not connected to where I am now, what is natural now. And I will calm down myself first when I will tell myself, where you are now is the only place you can be, and I will relax and accept it. Then the calm and the peace will come back to me. Or other traumatic or damaging things projected against me, if I will try to process it and feel the agony of that situation, I have learned to, because I've been past I brought it to myself, and it was an experience of life, like all my curvy roads in life. I will come to points to learn more from it. I will see more from it. And that situation in my mind went back, but I learned about psychology that the subconscious actually have the protection. Like you said, if there is a tiger chasing you, you will stop think, you will stop feel, you will act. That you will engage in action. You will act and perform something that you need to do. And most likely your subconscious will direct you to the only natural thing, and he will even protect you from hurting mental images and protect you to forget it. If you have such events going around you that it will be life-threatening to think about it, your brain's subconscious will packet it in and keep it until you are ready to receive it. And I learned myself to start to accept, like, I have a built-in protection. If I ever face something similar, I don't need to, like you said, try to fix something half year down the road. Why do it? Why try to think about a similar traumatic situation in the future and now feel the upheaval of negative emotions, starting to try to make mental, to take care of the situation in mental. I'm trying to do it consciously. I should not do it because I have a built-in subconscious super protection that will do it automatic for me. I can relax, I can feel free and trust myself and my inner intelligence and go back into flow or in follow time and be with it instead of. So if I get this, some told me, like, well, it feels like my body is trying to escape from myself, and that would likely be a situation where you engage in something people will call it stress, but it's putting mental energy to things you should skip it. Don't put mental or thinking power into things that's of no meaning. You use mental power wrong, then you get these symptoms people call stress. Stress is bad usage of your mental or physical powers. So clean up your act, try to come back. And now here is the empty. I will throw the ball over for you, this empty thing. Maybe you should continue to go on, and actually you teach me a lot from your experiences and what you say, and what you share with me. And here is, I would like to do with more words, like really there's a message in the word's wisdom, and our forefathers' wisdom is coming. They, if we want, we can try to start to see the message in it. What does it try to tell us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always think, you know, I don't know why I have feedback all of a sudden. Oh, it's better. Anyway, you know, I always like having conversations with you because of, you know, this whole language thing. And I think that we're missing a lot of linguistic stuff in the US, and how we approach language, and the understanding of it. And, you know, one of the reasons I really like the guy who's doing the quantum grammar, the law stuff, is because he talks a lot about this and how he's reusing, you know, punctuation type stuff to actually separate the language the way that the language should be kind of separated, which is changing the energy of the word, you know. And so a lot of this stuff, you know, I think has to go back to kind of languaging and words, and how they fit, you know, individually with people. So, and I'll put a link with this video when I put it up on YouTube, but there's amazing, like 4-hour lecture that Dr. Bruce Lipton gives on conscious. It's called, originally it was called Conscious Parenting, or Nurture versus Nature. He's a very out of the box scientist. He
Bridgette?
was, yes.
I will send you a link from the logical structure of the sounds from Binghamton, and you could add it to the video. Please go on.
So that would be great. Just add the link, and then I'll add that. But
Great.
so he talks about, he was the first stem cell researcher in the United States. He also went in to teach at 2 colleges, medical programs. And then he quit because he realized that medicine was a religion. And this is why in science books that they can remove your literature or your papers or your research and call it heresy and all kinds of stuff, because they're not really operating in science or facts. And so he did this 4-hour lecture on nurture versus nature. And he said one of the findings that they are finding is that they're doing a lot of research with rats and different types of environments, why rats are incubating their young and how the young come out. And they're also finding this in people. And what he said was that when you are a fetus and you're being developed in the mother, what she thinks, feels, and her perceptions of her reality will affect the fetus for its life. Because what will happen is that, say, for example, he was talking about people that, you know, that have been culturally repressed, you know, enslaved. We have a lot of those kinds of cultures in the United States. And he was specifically talking about the Black culture, and that, you know, they're living in areas that are really dangerous areas. You know, these areas are under stress. There's a lot of poverty. There's gang violence and a lot of these kinds of things that are happening. And he said what happens is that the woman gets pregnant and she spends time in so much stress in that pregnancy that the brain, the frontal part of the brain, the thinking, the analytic part of the brain never develops in the fetus, because there's no blood flow that is in the brain or the torso and the organs. But because she's highly stressed and she's under flight or fight, because there's bullets flying, you know, things are going on, she can't get rest, you know, can't get enough food. There's just a lot of stress and impact on her, that her children are actually being developed as military type pre-trained like military types, because the child is going to come out, the back side of the brain is going to be larger back here and more developed for fighting, and it's going to be a thinner child, and it's usually going to have a lot more muscular structure in the legs and arms, and it'll usually develop physically faster because, you know, it's in the survival. So he said that women who have pregnancies, who, you know, have all of their needs taken care of and the environments are calm and, you know, it's peaceful, what happens is that the child, when it's born, will have a more pronounced physical frontal area for intellectual and thinking purposes, and the child will be a little bit heavier and fatter because it's not developing as this high stress, you know, hit the ground, start fighting type of child. And so, you know, in America, you see a lot of this kind of stuff. There was also a lecture, and I'll put the link in with the video, and then you'll have that link too, so that you can watch the 4 hours. It's a really, it's a phenomenal thing because he does it with science, because he was a stem cell researcher. So he shows you the proof, right? He shows you the understandings. And it's really worth people paying attention to, because now it no longer matters about the genetics, about the male sperm and the woman and how it comes together. That doesn't matter, because it's the environment that will develop the children, and that's what they're going to be, right, through the development of the woman. And he said it's a lot of it, it's about perception, because the fetus can't look outside the mother and go, you know, I think you're overreacting. So the fetus has the cellular development and the perceptions and the chemistry of the body that it's in, based on the mother, right? And how she's managing her situation and the development of that fetus, and how the environment is going on around her and how she feels about that environment. So there was also, like, this was like, I think maybe it was like in my late 20s, I ended up going to this lecture. I'm like going to be 52 in December. And this woman was talking about, you know, she had done a lot of studies. She was kind of more on the spiritual end, but she had, you know, been a psychologist, and then she had worked in, you know, addiction counseling, mostly for heroin, for the state. And so she had like a really long career, you know, like a 30-year career when I went to this lecture. And so she was kind of putting it all into kind of a spiritual context. But a couple of things that she said was, one, if a heroin addict, like your basic heroin addict on the streets, living under the bridge with no resource or assets, can somehow conjure into their life a, you know, $120,000 annual heroin addiction, right? So they somehow, by whatever means they're using to get the heroin, they're using up to $120,000 a year. So they have to like steal it or prostitute for it, or, you know, whatever they're doing to get it. She said, you know, can you imagine at like the addict, the heroin addict, like how good that they are at manifesting and getting what they want? Could you imagine if they could use that in a positive role? Like how amazing that they could change not only their reality like that, you know, create their reality like that. Another thing that she said in this lecture that I remember is she talked about a lot about violence, you know, addicts living under the bridge, you know, trying to get what they need, using different kinds of, you know, breaking the law, whatever the law is, using violence, and also gangs and other related types of violence. And she said, you know, she thought a lot about how in our culture, and I can only talk about the United States, because she was talking about that, and she was saying, like she'd been all over the U.S. She'd looked at a lot of gang violence, a lot of it that had to do with drugs and coming into the country, and people wanting the drugs, and all the different kinds of violence that was taking place, and it was uprooting. But she said it's very much linked to anger, like repression of anger. And that somehow, she said, it felt like these people that were in kind of the undercurrent almost kind of had to play this role to like pressure valve and release these energies that the regular public refuses to acknowledge that they have. Because people pretend that they aren't angry. People pretend that they don't have an addiction. People pretend that they aren't sick. People pretend that they aren't angry. People pretend that they don't feel injustice. People pretend that all these different things. And she said it's almost like the undercurrent of the population was, and her words were,
people pretend they can only from love manifest everything of your reality. There's sometimes the spiritual world will tip over on the too much good.
Like how do they know that they're operating in love? Maybe they're operating in denial and delusion.
Actually, that's really interesting. I'm just a small thing. Continue your story.
Yeah, so she said, we wouldn't have this undercurrent of this population that is directly emanating violence, hostility, rage, if we didn't have an overabundance of it. And she said, what would happen if the undercurrent population wasn't exhibiting this? What would happen to our society as a whole? I mean, it would literally be explosive, and the energy would just blow ourselves off the map in order to be able to deal with that energy. My teacher, Bobido, who passed in June 2016, native medicine man, he used to be one of the caretakers of the caldera at Yellowstone, which is a super volcano. It's one of the largest in the world, and a lot of people worldwide are aware of it, that if it went off, that nobody would survive. It would take out the whole planet like it has, in the past. And so whenever it would start to raise up, he would get a call, and he would go there and he would do ceremony until the vents would open, and then it would release. And he said that it finally dawned on him one time that Iraq and the Middle East were on the exact opposite side of the planet. And that there is all this, not only the rage and anger between, the Arabic people, but the Muslims and the Jews and all of these different people. And then you have all the influx of all these other countries' military that is stealing from them and trying to control them. And he said it's like a zit, like all this energy over here in the Middle East is like going into the earth. And at some point it has to come out somewhere. And so he said it would come out this caldera. And he said, so think about like maybe, that the Middle East has been a hot spot on the planet for thousands and thousands and thousands of years since, we have this sort of a history of the caldera at Yellowstone blowing periodically. Right? So maybe it's been going on more than 5,000 years. Maybe it's been going on 600,000 years. Maybe it's been going on 1.2 million years, where you have this continued energy field that is, replicating and causing disorders, in other places. So that when we're not kind of like come to a thing here, but, when we're not actively empty, and we're constantly creating stuff haphazardly, consciously or unconsciously, that energy has to go somewhere, whether it destroys our own life, it destroys our own relationship, it causes conflict, or it goes to some other part of the earth. And Bobito used to say that. He used to say that when I heal the cancer in me, somewhere here on the earth, that cancer is cleared. And somewhere in the cosmos where that connects also clears. But when we keep creating more conflict and we're in denial, we're in delusion, we're in addiction, our mind is inventing stuff that we have to problem solve that's not even real, then we're creating a whole bunch of things that are going to need pressure valves of more violence or anger or rage or whatever else that needs to happen. So it isn't like, you know, for this whole long time, Bobito and I used to talk about the seesaw of the duality here, the polarity, you know, the dark and the light. Well, when the dark raises, then the light has to raise, and they battle it out. And then, you know, the dark goes back down, and then the light's up, and then the dark has to raise, and then it has to battle out. There's like no place of neutrality. It's a constant fight back and forth. And so being in this neutral place in the middle, this place of balance, which now I'm starting to call emptiness, where, you know, nothing really exists, but yet everything exists at the same time. But maybe I'm not influencing it internally to the external anymore. Like the in and the na, you know, like I'm not going out or in. It just is. And I'm in that place where it just is. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot about, we wouldn't need so much healing. You know what I mean? We wouldn't need other people or cultures to have to rise up, and all the light rise up and the dark rise up. We could get out of a lot of this polarity and duality that we're living in, the judgment, the discernment, you know, a lot of these things, if we could find the point of, you know, emptiness or balance or flow, or, you know, whatever we're going to, whatever word or language is going to work for us. But yeah, would you like to add something?
Yeah, well, I will say you taught me about the medicine wheel. I have my from archaeoastronomy. I have the keen awareness of our ancient constructions. Like a medicine wheel could be put like stone on the ground, but you had it as a concept as well. But this medicine wheel in Wyoming, for example, will be connected to the moon cycles and the sun, the sun year and the celestial events. So there is extremely much wisdom connected to it. It's like the order of creation or existence around us is in harmony with this medicine wheel. Or in let's take a Swedish example. We have a erected stone ship in south of Sweden, 70 meters. That's like 90. Well, that's 80 yards or something long. And the archaeologists have found other mounds and other constructions most likely have been around there, like a heather or a grazing cattle land kept in well shape, but also it's poor land. It will not be economically damaged by making the ritual room connected to this land, and those will be similarly keenly tied to the extreme wisdom of existence around. But you talked about the medicine wheel, like, hey, Per, think about it like it's something balanced. You cannot run around. You have to be in the middle. And what's in the middle? There's nothing. I will do that short thing and let the listeners get the reminder of your medicine wheel concept contains the emptiness in the center, right? We cannot hear you. You are muted.
Sorry, Lenny was messaging me because he's having problems with his computer, so he couldn't really get up. And I said, well, Par was the only one that could actually make it. And so Lenny's just saying he's having lots of problems with his computer. So a lot of people are in the U.S. with the internet and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the medicine wheel, you know, the way that I understand it from lots native teachers, right? So there's similar ideas about it, and then there's little intricate features, you know, depending on the person that is teaching the teaching. One of the things that was really helpful that Bhavado we talked about was that, okay, say for example, and people can go online and they can look at the medicine wheel, and all the stones, you know, have different. The cool thing about the native North America peoples, I know a lot of them don't want to be called Native Americans, so I really going to try really hard not to do that to them. So the native people of North America, they, you know, their medicine wheel, a really cool component about it was that they could actually pick these rocks up and move it anywhere. So it was like, you know, where you have like Stonehenge, those are not movable stones. Those are permanent for the long term and the long haul. Or the medicine wheel could have stones that are picked up. I even have a little bag of stones, 64 from the river, that I'm working with to make, you know, like a daily medicine wheel and take it down, you know, just to kind of have that experience, just to see kind of like what that does, to put it up, take it down, put it up, take it down, just to see the shift, what I learn, the feelings or whatever else from it. And it's a circle, but it also has, you know, the 4 directions. It also is on the earth, which is a 5th direction, right? And then it actually touches like acupuncture needles, right, to the cosmos, which is the 6th direction. And then the center has options. Some native people, my teacher Bhavado, we would put a fire in the center, you know, do a sacred fire, especially if we did a build. If we did a medicine wheel build, we definitely would put a fire in the center to help activate the energies. And then some people might want to put a big stone or a head in the center. Some cultures may want to put a buffalo head in the center, or something else that represents something important for them, the focus. But more so than not, you're the center, right? So there's the personal medicine wheel, there's a collective medicine wheel. There's lots of different ways that these medicine wheel, community medicine wheel. So we're working with our own personal medicine wheel. There should be a gap in the center, because that's going to represent you and the creator, bringing that in. So then we move into the 7 directions.
Would that also, the empty center would encourage you to go here and be in flow and action, create.
For that everything emanates from you when you're in that space. So this is kind of a cool thing, and something that I kind of developed to help my clients. So when I have clients and I'm doing consulting for shamanism work and things like that to try to help them, it gives you kind of a visual. Okay, so I know this is square, and I know that the medicine wheel is circle. So we're just going to pretend like this is a circle. Now, if I have a personal inner medicine wheel, then it's kind of floating, right? So, and I'm going to be in the center, right? Now, if I'm in a good shape and I'm in the center of my medicine wheel, where I'm supposed to be in the place of balance, emptiness, I'm in the empty spot, I'm filling that spot up, then everything's good. Everything vibes, all the different directions, you know, blow up to the side, it's all rotating. It's generating power, it's doing exactly what it needs to do. But most of us, and then there's this most important part of the lesson. So in some native traditions that, you know, I've learned, on your medicine wheel, depending on the direction, so you've got a north side, you've got an east side, you've got a south side, and you've got, say, a west side. Now, along the path of the outer wheel, on your personal wheel, on your personal medicine wheel, your life bundles and experiences. So you have a bundle, memory, whatever, a passage of your life, and it gets placed on that wheel. Well, it gets, say, for example, childhood for the Lakota is on the south gate, right? It's on the south side. They call it the south gate. So in ceremony, you would enter and exit the south gate if you want to deal with your childhood, if you need to go back to the physical childhood, or, for example, if you need to physically heal, right? If you need physical world healing, you may want to go to the south gate or the south side of your medicine wheel to do your work, to go back and look through those bundles, right, of your life. So it has everything eventually. So before you die, you know, your whole wheel, the outer wheel, will be filled with experiences, right? So what happens, so now we're back, and we're back in the game. We got dumped off, so I just kind of wanted to finish this. So here I have my, you know, personal medicine wheel, and so all the bundles around here, all my life experiences on the outside. So it's square, but we're pretending it's circle. Now, most of us on our personal medicine wheel spend our life running around the wheel and not in the center in balance. So I'm just going to give like an idea. What if, for example, you're here at the center, you're here in the center of your medicine wheel, but you're reactive to the outside world, and all your experience of the outside world are outside of you, right? And say, for example, something comes up from your childhood, right? And you all of a sudden lose it, and you step towards that south gate in an unbalanced way, in a reactive way. Well, what's happening? Well, your wheel is now not solid and sturdy. Your act, that energy act, is making your wheel go south, basically. And what happens when that happens? So you have, here, I have a rose. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when you get out of balance and you go in a certain direction. Ooh, your cheese slid off your cracker. So what happens to us? Well, our life experiences, our money, bank accounts, our house, our relationships, whatever is in that direction in our wheel that tips off, all of that slides off. And so then what do we have to do? Oh, well, then we have to get ourselves balanced, and we have to rebuild. We can say that the spiritual doesn't affect the physical, but it does. You know, when we're all of our inner medicine wheel, we're not in the middle of it, and we allow it to tilt, and we allow the stuff to slide off. A lot of times we can't get it back because we're overreacting to the outside world instead of just allowing it to do whatever it's going to do and unfold, and then staying in the place of emptiness until we know that we should do something instead of just reacting to it. So that's the way I look at it. Like, if I'm going to overreact, what is it that I'm going to lose? What part of my cheese is going to slide off my cracker? What is it that I'm going to have to rebuild? How long is that going to take me? So I think about a lot of this stuff, and for me, overwhelmingly, it's so much easier to be empty, present, in the flow, open, than dealing with things the way that we've been taught to deal with things, because you're always going to lose, right, when you react. And because if things like the law of attraction do exist here, then whatever you're sending out is exactly what you're going to get back, and you're going to get more of it. So, you know, when you're trying to chase your cheese off your cracker because you have pushed it off the edge, then the universe is going to be like, oh, okay, in kind, we're going to give you more of that. Let's see how many more cheeses we can slide off your cracker. Because that's how a lot of the things here function. And then also too, you know, this is a really cool thing, and I'll just add this in here real quick, and then we'll let you finish if you have anything to say. So for years and years and years, my native teachers were always like, you know, trying to get me to work with the 7 directional prayer. I'm going to call it the 7 directional prayer. And, you know, I would do it if I was at ceremony, you know, I would, you know, participate, or if somebody was doing it, you know, to like open the ceremony or whatever else, you know, was happening. And, you know, but I never really, you know, for years did it myself. And for whatever reason, you know, and sometimes like when you're younger, you poo-poo a lot of these things because you don't really think that's where the importance is or where the power is or that it's significant, right? Because it should be more like big bang and fireworks, right? Not some just simple thing. So when I had my brain cancer, I went through a period where everything that I'd learned from my native teachers and shamanism and everything else, I super took to heart and was practicing them because I had done everything I could physically to eliminate the brain cancer, but there was I just didn't have enough energy. And in shamanism, energy is very important because it's whether you're going to live or you're going to die. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Traditional, old traditional theories and thoughts and conditions. So one of the things that I went back and did was I decided faithfully I was going to do the 7 directional prayer. 30 days. And then, you know, when I needed it or, you know, when I needed to kind of be connected. And that's exactly what it does. But I had this experience, you know, about 3 weeks in when I disappeared and I became like this giant energy vortex that was pivoting on the earth and far extended out into the cosmos. And that's when I realized what the 7 directional prayer was that it turned me from a simple person thinking that I'm having a physical life to a massive energy vortex that was pulling information from the cosmos onto that point in Earth in which I was standing. And then I realized it wasn't such a simple it's not a simple prayer. So the basic of it is that, you know, you kind of stand in one spot. A lot of traditions like to start in the east. And so, you know, you just kind of connect your heart, you know, say, I'm going to, you know, you can look at the east, you can stare at the east, you can feel your way to the east. And you can just say, you know, grandmothers and grandfathers and good beings, you know, I'm connecting with you now to the east. Thank you for your information, your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding. And I welcome you. I welcome you. And then, you know, you do that to the south, the west, the north, then, you know, you're on the earth. So then you send your energy into the earth and you say the same thing, you know, like, thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping me and assisting me and giving me knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Thank you, you know, thank you, great mother. And I welcome you. And a lot of this is about you opening yourself to all of this energy and knowledge and wisdom and information that's around you instead of being closed in, right? That you know the way. Delusional. And then you welcome the mother in. And you can get really elaborate with this stuff or just keep it really simple. And then, Star Nation, I reach out to the Star Nation above. Thank you for your help and your guidance, in a good way. And I look forward to working with you, and thank you for your information, knowledge, and wisdom. I'm open and I welcome you. And then so you got the east, and it starts to pivot around you, right? So the east, the west, or the east, the south, west, and north. So you've got the directional clockwise pivot that's starting. Then when you do the earth, you're putting that point onto the earth, the bottom of that vortex, right? And connecting it down in. So you're connecting the power of the earth and all of that information to the circle that's starting, right? Then when you go to the cosmos, that's where the open part of the vortex is, and going out into the cosmos. So that's the top part of the vortex, that's going out, like a tornado or, some type of like that. But the most important part that unlocks the whole thing is when the last part, the 7 direction, when you come inside to yourself and you go into your heart and you welcome the creator, the creator of all worlds, and welcome the information and knowledge and data and all of that, I welcome you, thank you. And then you gotta work yourself in there too. Hello, hello self. I welcome you. I welcome myself to participate in this process. I welcome all of this information, knowledge, and wisdom coming in from all of these places, and I just open myself, right? I empty myself to all of that. And then it's bam when it hits, and you're like, I'm a pivoting energy field on earth, but sometimes I have to activate that. Sometimes I have to step out of this world that I think is solid, connect up with all these other beings and energy fields and computer systems, right, of information, and then allow those to all operate inside of me and around me, and me just be the solid vessel that it all happens. And sometimes I have to give permission. I have to ask. I have to step into it. I have to allow. I have to let go. I have to empty in order for that to happen. And it doesn't mean that my life is going to be perfect or I'm going to manifest anything. What it does is it opens me up to the unseen and allows me to experience more emptiness, which is, for me, like the ideal place these days. But it's kind of a great prayer to work with, especially when, you're in those places where you just don't know what else to do. And you feel like so disconnected, to connect you back up to all those things that, you're supposed to be connected up to. But your mind and your emotions distance you from the creator, distance you from the earth mother, distance you from life force, which is derived our physical body from the earth. We can't live, and we're not living, being able to go to a grocery store and buy food. It's not quality food. There is no life force in that food. So we aren't living, we have to get back to the things that matter. But anyway, I just love that whole medicine wheel concept too, because, what am I going to lose if I overreact? What's going to slide off my wheel? What's going to slide off my cracker? What am I ultimately going to lose? Do I want to lose that? Is it okay if I lose it? Right? Or do I really want to rebuild that section of my life? And how catastrophic will it be for me? And how catastrophic would it be for somebody else? I mean, say, for example, I had 5 kids, that I had to take care of. Obviously, losing anything off my wheel is not going to be beneficial for the choices that I make to bring children into this world. Now, it may be different if you're by yourself. You know, you may be able to have those kinds of losses. But, you know, it's not such a good thing to, you know, and sometimes you have to wait for periods of your life to maybe work spiritual practices or whatever else until you've raised your kids or you've taken care of the things that are relying on you to be taken care of. I mean, even like, you know, a house, like you sign up for a 30-year mortgage, regardless of how you feel about that. That house is a living thing. It came from things that were living, like wood. There were people who made things. They made them unconsciously. Maybe they hated their job. That energy also goes into that dwelling or that being. But it's your job to take care of that being with the best that you can give it, because you signed a physical agreement to do so. So, you know, those things can jeopardize your wheel by you not holding up your side of the bargain, your side of the deal, taking care of the things that you want to take care of. So sometimes you can't have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes you have to get out of those contracts in a good way, making sure you're not getting out of them in a bad way because the cheese that it slid off your cracker and you lost it, or your children or other things that you've made long-term commitment to. Sometimes you have to hold that commitment in the best 100% way until it's done and it's completed in a good way. And then you can make some other choices about what you want to do. But overreacting and things falling apart is never good for you, and it's never good for anyone, because that energy dumps off and it has to go somewhere. So anyway, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, well,
thoughts, and we'll tie it up.
yes, we will do that. And I never studied yoga too much. I heard a lady took a paid course, intensive course in yoga, and she noticed how they said she called up and showed her interest for the course, and the course leader became very anxious to sales pitch the event and get her to pay the like $500 for the week's stay or something to grab the offer. And when she arrived, she noticed that really it was not like he said almost all spots in the event. He pitched it like, well, there will soon be no position available for you to come, so you have to hurry. He pushed her to take it. And she arrived, so she told me like, well, I could see like, well, really that was not the case actually, where they were only kind of a couple of them. And she also noticed that in some manners, some branches of yoga is almost like organized religion, centralized around something to feed energy from it. And she could notice that some of the days they would have some trainings, and she would see how the leaders could actually almost like instigate something that would develop and almost like pop, and things would just go on and almost like feed energy away somewhere. So, but from you talking about yoga, it was interesting, and I am quite interested to myself learn more about. To develop my sides of emotional intelligence or spiritual intelligence, so that will naturally bring me to listen to you. So it would be interesting to hear more about yoga. I grabbed what you said and tried to go with it, and the experience I have from life, like the emptiness. I brought in the word flow instead, and I made the travel back in time to see I am in the emptiness together with them, because in my inherit, well, they created me from generation to generation, and also the culture. The culture is a word that actually you cultivate or you can have a plant culture. You can culture, you can grow. Culture is actually a word that means to grow, as well, together with other things. So culture is kind of an interesting, this interesting sign to help us to come, to have this as a mental tool to give us some value from it. Now I'm actually trying to get the intellectual world, and I'm drifting away from it. But in the flow, I could go to myself, and I would be interested to hear more from you. Talk about yoga as you laid up the presentation of your idea for today's talk. And when I myself find myself most alive, I think that could be kind of what you would say is the happiness of empty, the positive side of going empty, to come home, to be in the being, be the flow. And I will use things around me when I play music, and I will sometimes fiddle with some of the knobs I have learned some of the things you can change things in my professional synthesizer when I play, and I would describe it as I meditate when I play. If I have a feeling or emotion, I can feel it and go in there, and sometimes I will fiddle with the knobs and it will feed me impressions, or I will do the settings. When I accept to be there, and sometimes I just go crazy and I play along with it, after listening to it, I can sometimes be quite, it's quite astonishing to find when the best times I play and the best times I go into I go into me, I go into flow. And the expression of what I hear, and I can reconnect into it and live with it. And when I do it the best, I actually do it as playing, and the being of me will create what goes on. And naturally, I love to meditate and play and create in music and develop this side. So that's moments when I feel very much alive and in flow, and even after, because music is something very fluid. You really have to be in the music is in the present. When you stop the music, it disappears. So that's kind of my little thing, and maybe I would invite you to talk shortly your summary or some words about yoga. That was your lead up to this collab.
Yeah. Well, the thing
Chat.
is, like, right, I don't really like the whole, modern yoga, but I believe that Tibetan Buddhism practiced very traditionally. Yoga, Hinduism, Brahmaism, a lot of this stuff practiced very, very traditionally. Um, you know, South American shamanism, Toltec, Aztec, Yaqui, Native, North American Native people, medicine people, going to my lineage in Siberia, shamanism type stuff. These are old shamanism practices that are very, very old and ancient. We've modernized them. So I'm not really big on yoga, but I am big when I find these amazing, guru type people, teachers that are teaching some of the more old and advanced systems, and they get sometimes leaked out into some of more modern work. And you have to really listen to find those really ancient parts. But I think more so for me, I'm looking for the ancient shamanism ways in ancient traditions. And that's kind of like, I think, more what I'm up to. And then periodically I will find something that fits into that system that, I've been building on for my entire life. So that's the way that I look at it. I can find these little pieces to this larger shamanistic puzzle, global shamanistic puzzle. And, like the stones in your area and a lot of these things. And these, time capsules of information. They're all shamanic. They all, like you were saying, glyph is the sign. Here in the area that I'm in, 2 hours away, are the oldest hieroglyphs in all of America and in Canada. So we have some of the oldest ones here, and they look like those cymatic sound symbols, that are written on them. And, like the way that I understand that is that the being, the native person, would have projected that frequency and sound into that stone, put that information into that stone, and then would have put the symbol along with it, right? Because it's telling you something. It has an energetic frequency that's inside that stone that's emanating energy out for however long that stone is going to be there, and then you have to ask yourself, well, what purpose does this sound need, this frequency need to be here? For example, there's a place called Thomas Creek that I like to hike, and when I was climbing, I would climb there, even though it was kind of a dangerous climbing area back then. But there was a stone that had been carved on by the Washoe people, the ancient Washoe people in the area. And I used to love walking by that stone because I would always think, like, what does that symbol mean? What was the projection of information that they put into that stone? And why did they put it there? Is it to, maybe the weather was really chaotic here at one time, so they created the stone so it would support the weather. It would help the weather to be in balance, or maybe it was bringing more water, or maybe it was helping with the wind forces, or, just different things. I mean, I know from talking to a lot of Native people that they had stones that were very old that they used like digital machines that were passed down. So you can literally put your finger in the hole and turn it. You could turn the rain up or the rain down in your area, right? So, I look at the stone and I think, what is it that was needed here? That they are letting you know by the symbol being carved on the stone exactly what the technology is and why it's there. It's just there's no map to explain it to us at this point in time. So I used to love walking by that stone for like 15 years, after I discovered it. Then one day I went there and I went to walk by it, and the National Geologist and Archaeological Foundations of the United States took the stone and left a sign saying that they took it and it's in an undisclosed warehouse.
Yeah, that's
and that's when we started getting drought here, bad drought. Like, so what was it doing? I mean, I have a lot of theories of what that stone was doing, why the Washoe people designed it, why they imprinted on it, what kind of, technology, but I don't know for sure. But obviously, it gained the interest of the government, so much so, to take it away. So you have to say to yourself, okay, then that stone is doing a lot more than what they say they're doing, because they wouldn't steal it if it was just a stone with a writing on it.
And the top of the government knows, well, pretty well, the action they do will have the effect as you saw it. So they will actually maybe hoard, or they will steal the ancient wisdom or power or energy connected to what this is. I could talk.
it's a technology device.
Well, maybe I would say like John Dee of the Spanish Armada, suddenly they are maybe able to defeat the English fleet. So I would actually maybe suggest that energy, like directed energy weapons, is nothing new, really. And maybe John Dee had a stone and he turned up and down this storm from maybe demonic connection to the destroyer
Well,
demon
this is the
out
thing,
there,
right?
and maybe that's actually what they're doing now with all this weather manipulation around us, or going in, stealing the ancient artifacts of our
Well, yeah, but I don't think, that they
forefathers.
can, yeah, they can't use because they don't know from our forefathers the technical devices. They don't really understand them and they don't know how to use them. And the people, the
Maybe
family
yes,
lines and
maybe no.
bloodlines that actually could touch them because they were developed for those people are
Yeah.
not using. So, they really can't. So what they have to do is they have to develop digital
Well,
weapons
yeah. Yeah.
to,
I'm with you. I'm with you. But I would say that the function of the stone is probably, I'm just speculating because it feels very natural to connect everything in relation to the stone is energetically connected. And now it's all the heritage of the ones having the stone in their region and coming to, for most likely they would not only come for ceremony and a ceremony will be connected to everything that you want to
yeah.
express during a ceremony. So of course, as you say, it's connected to the ones that had the stone.
Yeah, and it's connected to the environment. So you take it away,
Sure.
and that's one thing is like people I don't think understand is that traditional shamanism medicine work is for the good and the benefit of all, more
Yeah.
so
Well,
for the good for the beings in nature than yourself. And so people get the word shamanism and things like this wrong. In It ends up being in kind of a negative usage along with
sure.
satanic digital cultism and conjuring, which
Well, yeah,
that's
yeah.
not what shamanism is not a conjurer, it's not a manifester, it is a prayer, it's an
Well,
aligner,
yes,
it's
and
a balancer
even
between
Christian,
all worlds.
in Christian traditions, they will honor, they will realize that the power of intention is like, that's almost like the law of attraction, but your intentions and we are part of the team that wants to create the better for many. So, but the power, the energy power, or the mental spiritual powers, for thousands of years it has been known, and the trickery team to create like a magician's show, they have also been around for thousands of years. They harvest and collect the best information knowledge they can use to dazzle people, and then to make like smoke and mirrors. This being over here is floating in the air and the magic happens. No, it was a performance. But the other side, like the spiritual, the positive connection of spiritual um, knowledge or wisdom, which should also not be neglected. And probably not only like the forefathers and the region you spent with this stone and their connection to it, but in many cultures, I think that is known about. I'm sadly very harshly disconnected from it, and I can see the connections, and I start to work to better it, to heal it. Like 250 years ago, no, actually 200 years ago, they broke my ancestral farmer villages, and their social structure, and that culture actually goes more than 5,000 years back in time. now I took over a little bit of your, if you want to cut me off and finish something, but I could go on for a short thing. Some archaeologists in Sweden recently found in an area that 8,000 years ago got flooded by the Baltic Sea, but the mud coming in actually preserved the things in the ground. And when they made the excavation, digging, they actually found evidence to scrap the previous theory. 8,000 years ago, people were living in huts like in Africa, kind of, you know, Stone Age man. They actually found timber houses, solid ground for solid house building. It was 8,000 years old. So now they have to revise Stone Age, and I will be quite sure that 40,000 years ago, during the great glaciation, when the continental shelves were land, we were as sophisticated, and it was waning and waxing civilization as we have today. So this, I will stop by it almost, well, I'll say a short thing. Your medicine wheel, but the stone ship, the famous stone ship in south of Sweden, actually, I spent so much time guiding it, I got to know it, and I could see it's integrally designed like figures in the memory traditions, mythology connected to the starry skies. All the stories of ancient classical astronomy and ancient classical mythology around the world. I've actually found stones I can prove in Sweden are designed to be symbolic of elephants, and no one could dream of, in after the ice glaciation disappeared from Scandinavia, they would find elephants there. Well, of course they could maybe 10-15,000 years ago find mammoths around there, but there are stones designed to depict or to illustrate the usage of elephant in Norse mythology, ceremonial ritual locations, and that's quite astonishing. So I'll drop it back for you, because I think John Dee and the Spanish Armada going under in a catastrophic storm raging and just sinking the Spanish fleet is described as something supernatural, and it's 500 years ago. And I imagine that the so-called elites actually do possess the knowledge 500 years ago to maybe have
this is the other thing.
energy,
you know, that guy,
weather weapons.
Oh no, but that guy was really evil. I'll just tell you a quick story, and then we'll close off, because it's quite long.
Exactly, great.
So I'll just tell you like a quick story. So I deal with a lot of shamanism stuff. Like my grandmother was an exorcist. You know, my real father, you know, was chased down by the government for years because he was from a shamanic line. And he had, you know, powers, and he used to clean out places of different kinds of energies, you know. So inherently, I just got that. Mm-hmm. So, but I use different kinds of techniques. I use techniques where I change the energy field so that it makes it not a good home for other vibrations, and so it makes it easier for them to leave. I don't go hand-to-hand combat with those things anymore, because I think I can be like nature, where they don't exist in nature, and the nature spirits won't allow those things to take hold. So this is when I was like, I don't know, I probably was around 28. But one of my clients and friends, who was a medical doctor, who came to see me and sent a lot of clients to me under the radar to actually work on physically, called me and said that, you know, her brother all of a sudden has become cursed. And I said, well, I don't really know. You know, he would have had to do something. What did he do? And, you know, like there were all these crazy events. You know, he crashed his car, barely survived. He was getting married. The woman who was going to marry him just canceled the whole wedding and ran away and didn't talk to him. He all of a sudden had weird lawsuits and all this stuff that took all of his money and closed his bank accounts. And this all stuff happened within like 2 months. And it all was attached to him going to Hawaii. There were these stones that have some kind of energy. He was told not to take them.
Wow.
Well, he decided that he was going to, steal a couple of them, put them in his pack, and then come back. And the moment that he took them is when all hell started breaking loose in his life. So she asked me, like, what do I think he should do? And I said, well, he can't go back to Hawaii and take them back. And so he needs to actually, discharge them now, right? Release them. And I said, he should just take them down to the river, here we have here, and just put them in a secret location in the river. Even if he has to dig down a little bit, stick them in there so other people don't find them. But, that energy kind of has to be discharged. And that water, because those stones are used to all that water being around the island and whatever else, will help the stones, because we have to do like the best that we can for those stone beings too, right?
Yeah.
But so, you think about like a whole armada of ships being taken down. Well, what did they take that didn't belong to them?
Sure. I agree.
These people were looting, very powerful South American tribal people that had very strong ties to
Yeah. I'm with you. But how would that be connected to John D? But maybe we will do a talk about things like this later.
Yeah, it would have caused that storm.
Mm-hmm.
Because that being, that energy thing that they may have taken, the gold that may have had not curses or spells on it, but was used for certain kind of ceremonial processes that belonged to the area, was so powerful that when he took it in a bad way. He trespassed. There was no permission, and it destroyed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot, but people just don't really seem to grasp that. And that's why one of the most important things that all my native teachers have taught me is the number one most important thing is permission. You are always asking for permission, even no matter if you're going to another city. I pray before I go to that city. I pray the day before I go to that city. I give a tobacco offering, thanking those beings for accepting me to come there. It's like ringing them on the phone going, hey, I'm going to be coming down tomorrow. You guys okay with that? Oh, great. Thank you so much. Then I give them my tobacco offering. So that way, when I go there, they're not attacking me and trying to kill me because I'm trespassing, but they're opening the doors and saying, hey, we're ready for you. We're so glad that you're coming. And they watch over me, they take care of me, and they protect me while I'm there.
Interesting.
So, permission is super, super important thing that I've learned in my life is that, you don't ever take anything that doesn't belong to you. And you always try to leave a gift in place. You always leave something in its place. Even if I take plant medicine, if all I have is some spit, I spit on the ground and give thanks, But most of the time I'll have something else that I can put there. Usually if I take plant medicine, I'll have seeds from another plant and I'll plant those there. So I'm actually helping the environment too by adding some new friends, to the environment. So, but, you never take anything and you always offer something that, a thank you, and you always offer an offering, in respect and gratitude for, whatever is going on. So it's super important. But anyway, let's end.
Sure. Very nice talk. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks. And, we can talk about, maybe later on we can have a collab and talk more about the supernatural functions of things. That, I love talking about that stuff. I very rarely ever get to talk about it because it scares the holy hoo-hoo out of people. It isn't something that people actually want to talk about. They want to be in denial that it actually exists. So that way they don't have to pay for their, crimes that they've committed.
Yeah.
All
Great.
right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Par, for having the conversation. Hopefully we'll have more people on next time. I mean, it looks like everybody messaged me and said all their computers were just messed up, so nobody could even really even get on Skype. So it was good.